Hey everybody, Dr. Heldman here. Welcome back to Ancient Texts Revealed. I would just want to do a little bit of a wrap up on the story of the Scapegoat series of videos that I've been using. I think we're pretty done. I just wanted to explain real quickly with a PowerPoint deck where everything went, how it occurred. I don't claim to be precise on this at all. These are just what I have discovered upon doing my research. And of course, you have to do, Acts 11:17. You have to be a Berean and do your own research and make sure that you validate what's going on. But let's get started. This is going to be the wrap up for this particular video series. So here we are. I want to bring this series to an end. It was titled The Story of the Scapegoat. And of course, we got that out of Leviticus 16:8 through 10. The scapegoat, the one that was led out into the desert, is named Azazel. So that's what triggered this whole thing, and it made me want to go and research pseudepigrapha and the Apocrypha and the Jewish texts and other books to find out what may have happened. And this led us on quite a journey. In fact, we were in the Louvre a month and a half ago, and we went straight down into the Assyrian section where you were able to see a statue of Gilgamesh, who many people believe is one of the Nephilim. So let's get started. So this is how things went down. This is as I see it. You need to research it yourself. But before we do that, I wanted to share one thing with you that I thought was super interesting, a web page that I saw. Let me bring it up and share it with you. And here it is. I found this in phys.org. This was something that I was just getting the news on and looking at. And there's this giant sphere. It's in Bosnia-Herzegovina in Europe. And it's an entire sphere. It's very accurate. It's very, very heavy. And so I was reading about this. And he says, well, this person that found this said, is this part of an ancient civilization, or is it just a very big rock? You know what? I believe in entropy. I think that one of the laws of physics that was put into motion when the flood happened was entropy. Everything is going to just kind of auger in. And so I don't believe that things get formed precisely like this sphere. And you can even see that there's a casing that came off of it. But he says this is in this whatever village I can't pronounce. It's in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And it's interesting that this guy says this. He says it's the most massive stone ball in Europe, and it gives you the name of the village. He says preliminary results show the radius to be 1.2 to 1.5 meters, so that's a fairly big ball. Materials have not been analyzed. The red color of the ball points to a very high content of iron. He goes down to say, why is this significant? Well, it would be proof that Southern Europe, Balkan, and Bosnia in particular were home to advanced civilizations from the distant past, and we have no written records about them. Right. And so this really caught my attention because, we have talked a little bit about this. Science cannot just introduce plain science into things. You got to hear what I'm saying here. You need to have your spiritual hat on. So when we're looking at something like this and we're looking for just a physical explanation, it's not going to be helpful. I think there's a spiritual explanation here, and this guy was smart enough to realize that and talk about it. Anyway, back to this now. So let's see what went down. So I'm going to play this little video. Now, this is Genesis 1:1. I do believe that this is the Big Bang. It's about 13.7 billion years ago, something like that. God created everything. It came into being, and the angels in heaven were delighted with what he had created. And so I do think that probably happened about that time, 13.7 billion years ago, and I think that reconciles with what science is trying to say. And we need to remember that God is not in the space and time continuum. He does not function that way. He doesn't need to function when he's thinking about time. That's not something that he is in. He is outside the space and time continuum. Further, I would suggest that there may be other universes that were created that we know nothing about. So that I do think that this happened, and I do think the time duration is fine. Now, there was an anointed cherub, and his name was Lucifer. And at some point during this time, this 13.7 billion years ago or and change, or up to the flood, he decided to fall. He decided to declare the 5 I wills. He was going to take part of God's kingdom from him and make a new kingdom. And when he fell with a third of the angels. And this happened somewhere along that 13.7 billion year timeline. There were probably creatures on the earth. There could have been advanced civilizations on the earth. Could have been vehicles. Who knows what was here then? But the point is that Satan fell, brought a third of the angels with him, and began to wreak havoc on that particular part of the planet at that time. So he and his minions wrought havoc on the earth's inhabitants. Now, I don't think between the first creation and the second creation that these were humans. I think they were hominids. They might have been human-like. I have no way of really saying yes or no to this, but it does explain the Neanderthals, the dinosaurs, pterodactyls, and so forth. And if he had his demons assisting, or his fallen angels assisting and helping others understand mysterious things they shouldn't understand, he came with a lot of knowledge, and he maybe imparted that to whatever was on the earth at that point. But the point is that God got sick of it and decided to flood the earth, and he took away everything. So when the earth was flooded, it was all of creation, hominids, animals, plants, and aquatic life. Now, time passed, so we don't know. So let's think about our timeline here. 13.7 billion years, boom, the Big Bang happens. This universe is brought into being along with all of the galaxies and all the other stuff. And then at some point, Satan decides to fall. He takes a third of the angels with him down to this creation. Time passes, and God floods it and says, nope, I'm done with this. I really regret what I have created here, mostly because I think Satan had such a big influence on everything, Satan and his minions. So time passes, and then 6,000 years ago, this is where I believe in a true 7-day creation. On the seventh day, God rested. He created everything in 6 days. That was 6,000 years ago. I do believe that, and I think that reconciles nicely with what we know. This is found in Genesis 1:3. So Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 are the story of the first creation. Genesis 1:3 is where the second creation goes. And, this is a beautiful shot of the universe. This is what it must have looked like at creation time. So then 200 watchers decided to leave heaven and fall to the earth. And they fell to a mountain in Israel called Mount Hermon. They're named in the book of 1 Enoch, 2 Enoch, 3 Enoch. Read them, but don't take them to the bank. There has been a lot that has been contributed to the book over the years in the past, so they're not reliable. 1 Enoch is reliable. I think it is a good pseudepigrapha to consult. And so we find out their names, and there are 2 important names, Shemyaza, who was the one that got everybody to fall, and then this guy Azazel, who was a seriously bad creature. He actually was attributed to all of the sin that was taught to human beings that were on the earth at that time. And so what did they taught? What did they teach? Well, Azazel is credited with teaching all this stuff. They taught astrology and the worship of the stars. And this has been around for a long, long time now. They taught genetic manipulation. They taught the making of the instruments of war. They taught pharmakia, which is a Greek word that means the mixture of drugs and sorcery. So sorcery was a big thing. Worshiping gods that we should not worship. Worshiping demons, fallen angels and demons. And they also taught the building of enormous structures humans could not possibly build. There is no way they could have built those ziggurats, those pyramids, those hinges. It's ridiculous to think that a human being back during that time could build these things, these mounds, all that stuff, cities that were developed for the purpose of worship and not godly worship, a different kind of worship. So Azazel was teaching all this stuff. He's a bad dude. And the fallen watchers also had carnal relations with women. And they produce what we refer to today as the Nephilim. These are the giants. And they are where the demigods come from, the Roman and Greek demigods, the Assyrian demigods. These are what we would call the Nephilim, the giants. Now, it's important to understand that when we say the word demon, what we mean is that when a Nephilim dies, his spirit becomes a demon. There's no place for this thing to go. God has dispatched them, and he said in 1 Enoch, they will be demons. The Nephilim lacked a spirit. They were violent. They didn't lack a spirit per se. What I mean here is that they lacked the spirit of God. God did not breathe the spirit into them. These are, bastard children that were created from a relationship that should have never have happened. They were very violent. They were vicious. And they were hungry. They were cannibals. They ate everything. That does not preclude the fact that they were doubtless very, very intelligent. And so they were helping their fathers, the fallen watchers, to build these things and to instruct society and to get things carried out and done. According to 1 Enoch, God judged the watchers, and he did it through Enoch. You recall that in 1 Enoch, we're told that the watchers said, hey, man, we want to repent. This is terrible. We shouldn't have done this. They went to Enoch. They begged for him to go to God on their behalf. Enoch did go to God and begged on their behalf, and God said, nope, that's not going to happen. I am not going to forgive you. And as a consequence of that, Azazel is buried in the wilderness of Dedale. He has rocks on his face, and he's there until the judgment of the angels. And the other watchers were chained in the abyss until the judgment day. So there is a judgment day coming for these angels. But you recall in Revelation, at the very end of days, the abyss is open. Well, if it's open, what comes out of there? Well, these watchers that are chained there come out of there. And for a short time, they will torment the earth, but ultimately what it's leading to is their judgment. Because of all the evil, God decides to flood the earth a second time. So the first time, everything was taken. All animal life, plant life, aquatic life, birds, you name it, it's all done. The second time the flood occurred, he instructed Noah to take 2 of every unclean creature and 7 of every clean creature on board the ark with him. And so we think that the aquatic life and the plant life was spared, and then whatever was on the ark that was an animal was spared as well. And I can't answer the question about bugs. I don't know about what happened to the bugs. But the species that Noah took on the ark with him survive, and of course after that, they had to rebuild. As the days of Noah were, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. So this is in Matthew 24:37, and it's harmonized in Luke 17:26. What does that mean? Well, I leave it to you to guess what that means, but if you go out and you look on the web, you'll see an awful lot of YouTube movies that are talking about the return of the Nephilim. I would submit to you that we're doing so much genetic manipulation that I think this probably plays into a part of this. We are creating chimeras, and we're creating things that should not be created. I think that's a part of it. We have a serious problem with worshiping the stars. There's a lot of people that are heavily engaged in astrology, and this is a form of something that we shouldn't be doing. Getting a medium, getting our fortunes told, things like that. This is evil stuff. This is coming from and was taught by these watchers and the Nephilim. So we should not be doing these things. We shouldn't be making war either. I'm not pro-war at all. I like the idea of people getting along with each other. And so, but somewhere along the line, warfare was taught and warfare happens. And, there are probably just and righteous reasons for some warfare. I'm sure you can think of them. And there are also unrighteous and unjust reasons for warfare, and I'm sure you can think of those as well. But anyway, we're told, as the days of Noah were, with all of this rampant sexual activity, pharmakia, the drugs, and the worship, the sorcery, calling forward of spirits, trying to call things into being, all that stuff. That's going to be what it's like when the coming of the Son of Man occurs. So, just something to noodle on. And of course, we know that the story of the scapegoat, what happens is the scapegoat is led out into the desert. He has a crimson thread around him. It's probably a rope. And he gets to the edge of the cliff, the Judean wilderness cliffs. They're very hard, they're very rugged. And essentially, I don't know if he's kicked over by one of the priests or whatever, the thing dies, and it represents the dying of all of that effort that Azazel made to into the planet to go do away with God's will and what the things that God wanted to do on the planet. So that's it. That's the end of the series. I'm going to embark on a new series now, and I would love it, you guys, if you would like this channel, subscribe to it, tell your friends about it, leave comments. I'm loving the comments that people are leaving on the channel about various things that they read. Thank you very, very much, and I will see you in the next movie. Have a great day.